So this is going to be the second transformation that we're doing in this unit. It's about reflections. There will be 3 days of reflections. This is the first one. It's the easiest to do. As you can see, I've added a little background music to make it a little more interesting for you. If you find that distracting, let me know at some point and we'll see what I can do about fixing it. So, reflections. To reflect a point across a line, count how many spaces it is to the line, then count the same number on the other side of whatever you're reflecting across. So you will be given a axis that you are reflecting across, or a line you're reflecting across a little bit later. You're going to count how many spaces it is from the point over to the line, and then you're going to count that same number straight across to the other side to get your image. So we're going to complete some of these as examples here, so you just need to be watching as usual. We're going to reflect the point A, 3, 6 across the y-axis. So the first thing we're going to do is graph our point 3, 6. So starting at the origin, we're going to go to the right 3, and we're going to go up 6. And we should have a point right up here. We're, of course, going to label that A, 3, 6. We're reflecting across the y-axis, which is right here. The vertical axis is y. And we're going to go ahead and count how many spaces it is to get to that axis. So we're going to count 1, 2, 3 spaces. We moved 3 spaces over. Now we want to count 3 spaces on the other side. So we want 3 to get to the axis, and we're going 1, 2, 3 spaces to get to the other side. That is our image. It is A prime. The coordinates, if you notice, are going to be really similar to what they were over here. This was 3, 6, but now instead of going forward, we're going backwards. So our image is going to be at -3, 6. So it's the point A prime, which is -3, 6. Number 2, we want to reflect point B, -6, -2, across the x-axis. Going across the x-axis this time. So we're going to start by graphing our point -6, -2, right down here. Backward 6, down 2. Of course, we're going to label it B. And we are reflecting across the x-axis this time, the horizontal line that's highlighted here. We're going to do the same thing, but instead of counting to the y-axis this time, we're counting up to the x-axis. So we count 1, 2 spaces, and then we're going to move 2 spaces up again. 1, 2, so we end up right here. So B prime is the point -6, 2. Okay, just like this switched one of the values, our second example here switches a value as well. The final example that I want to do is C, 4, -3, and you'll notice that the notation down here is just a little bit different. It has a lowercase r, and then it says x-axis. You're probably thinking that that means reflection across the x-axis, and you would be 100% right. We're going to take the point 4, -3. So we're going +4, -3. We're going to label that point C, and we're going to reflect it across the x-axis. So we're going to count up to the x-axis again, this line right here. We're going to count, and it is 1, 2, 3 spaces. So we're going to count 3 spaces up again. 1, 2, 3 spaces, and we're going to label it C prime. Okay. If you look at our coordinates, we're forward 4, up 3, so the point C prime, the image of C after a reflection on the x-axis, is the point 4, 3. I'll give you about 10 seconds to copy that down if you need to pause it so that you can catch everything, make sure that you got it, and feel free to do so. All right, if you're not quite done, feel free to rewind and pause it somewhere so that you can get everything down. But we're going to move on. Just like with the translations, you're going to be asked to do this not on just single points, but on whole figures. So to reflect a figure across a line, we're going to perform the same reflection to all points in that figure. Okay, so we're going to take triangle XYZ. We want X to be at the point 1, 3. So we're going to start by graphing that. We're going to go forward 1, up 3, and we're going to graph point X. Make sure you label it. We're going to graph point Y, which we want to be 5, 1. So we're going to go forward 5 and up 1. And graph Y. Make sure you label it. And the third point is Z at 5, 6. So forward 5, to the right 5, and up 6. Point Z. Make sure it's labeled. Okay. Once you connect these, you're going to have a triangle over here. Triangle X, Y, Z. We want to reflect this across the Y-axis. Y-axis is the vertical one right here that's highlighted. So we're going to do the exact same thing to all three of them. We're going to reflect X across first, and then we're going to reflect Y across, and then we're going to reflect Z across so that we flip the entire triangle straight across that line. So start with X. We're going to move it 1 space. We're on the axis now, so we want to move the same number on the other side. Okay? Make sure you label it. So X prime is the image of X after you flip it across the Y-axis. The coordinates of that point are going to be -1, +3. We're going to do Y next. So we're going to count how many spaces over to the X-axis. Looks like 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 spaces over. So again, we're going to take that and move straight across on that same line there. We're going to move 5 spaces. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 puts us right over here at -5, +1. We started at the origin. We went to the left 5 and up 1. So the coordinates of Y prime are -5, +1. Z up here. This last point up here, we're going to count over to the Y-axis again. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Now some of you will notice that's the same number down here. Well, these just happen to be lined up perfectly. So we went 5 spaces for Y to get to the axis. We're going to go 5 spaces for Z to get to the axis as well. And then move it straight over again. So we go 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Will put us right here. We're labeling it Z prime. You'll notice again, these are lined up right here, just like these were lined up over here. The coordinates are going to be -5, +6. We went to the left 5 and up 6. So Z prime is at -5, +6. Once again, essentially what we've done is we've taken this triangle when we flipped it over the axis. So we end up somewhere right over here. I'll give you 10 seconds to get that copied down. All right, we are going to try one example on our own here before you're finished. I want you to take the image triangle, so X prime, Y prime, Z prime, and I want you to reflect it across the X-axis this time. So you're going to take the image, the one right here, and I want you to reflect it across the X-axis right here. Okay, I want you to flip that across. I'll give you 10 seconds on the timer. If you need to pause it so that you have time to get it done, make sure you do that. All right. I'm not going to have all the fancy movements in this, just because you won't be able to have those when you're doing your homework or practice or test or quiz or anything like that. So you can use the tip of your pencil to count, which I hope you did to do this. We're going to start with X prime up here. We're going to count how many spaces down to the axis. So we go from X prime, we go down 1, 2, 3 spaces to get to the axis. So we want to go down another 1, 2, 3 spaces on the other side. And X prime, X double prime actually, because we're doing the image of an image. So X double prime is right down here at -1, -3. We're going to do the same thing for Y prime here. We're going to flip it across the X-axis. So we count just 1 space down. and we're already on the axis. And we count one more space down to make y double prime, which should be right here. Y double prime. Make sure you're labeling these correctly. Last, we're going to do point Z. This is a long one. We have to count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 spaces to get down to the x-axis. And we're going to count another 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 spaces to get to the Z double prime point, which is right down here. Make sure you label it. You'll notice that the labels up here have one apostrophe because it's x prime, y prime, z prime. This is x double prime, y double prime, z double prime. Once again, we've essentially taken this triangle up here and we've flipped it across the x-axis, so it'll end up right down here. Okay, this is a lot different than a slide. You'll notice that, especially right here, you can see that the original triangle XYZ has a point going to the left. X prime, Y prime, Z prime has a point going to the right. You've actually flipped that whole thing over. You've done the same thing here. You can kind of tell that Y prime, Y double prime, X double prime is the shorter side here, and Y prime, X prime up here is the shorter side in this triangle. So you're actually flipping it. You're not just doing a slide, even though it looks kind of similar on this one. Okay? That is it for reflections across the axes. We'll be moving on with a little bit more difficult stuff in the next couple lessons here. But as always, if you have any questions, make sure you make notes in your margins and ask me tomorrow, or leave a comment at the bottom of this video, and I will do my best to get back to it.